So this is Roy Levitt, obviously, and today I'm excited to share with you what I believe to be the fundamentals of how to define, develop, and express a powerful brand. Over the next 45 minutes, I'm going to use the word clarity a lot because, in my experience, clarity is central to the process of developing a brand. Before we jump into the nuts and bolts of this presentation, let me just tell you a little bit about myself and go through the agenda for today's webinar. As Ginny said, I'm the co-founder of a brand strategy and design firm headquartered just outside of New York City in Westport, Connecticut, Van Dusen and Levitt Associates. We have a global client base. We work across dozens of industries and have over 40 employees and associates at the firm. I've been in the branding industry for the better part of the last 2 decades. And so you guys know, I entered the industry straight out of design school, and I am still a hands-on designer. So quickly, so we can get right into this. I'm going to discuss today what clarity is and why it's such a critical component of building a brand. Next, we're going to get into how to leverage brand clarity through every fundamental step of brand development. And last, we've left 15 minutes at the end of this webcast for some Q&A. So as Ginny mentioned, type in your questions and she'll facilitate them to have a conversation at the end. So let's talk about brand clarity first. So our world is filled with so many images today, so many voices. They're all vying for our attention. There's just literal chaos and overload out there. And it's difficult to know what's important, what's worth our time, and what really is just noise. And that's from a consumer standpoint. Successful brands distinguish themselves in that crowded landscape. They're heard distinctly above commotion and seen vividly amidst that chaos. And how they do that, in my opinion, is they are founded in clarity. You know, a great deal is to be said about the critical importance of brand strategy, but how that strategy is developed and what the underpinnings of it and the process to go about doing it and what that means to the final expression of the brand is really critical. I'm sure we all can agree that when leading a design team through the expression of a brand, or even just doing it yourself, the soundness of the underlying brand strategy will become very apparent. If a brand strategy is not extremely clear and founded upon fact-based truths about a brand, its audience, and competitive market, the brand expression that it follows can become really just a guessing game or a beauty contest. And the brand design can just lack clear, true, effective, and a relevant message. Um, Without that clarity, without that rock solid strategy, your work's just going to be judged for aesthetics and not deep rooting brand building characteristics. And as a branding designer, that becomes quite difficult to build a compelling argument with your client of why they should go one direction or another. So what is brand clarity? In simple terms, it's differentiating and relevant fact-based truths about a brand, its audiences, and competitive market. And you're probably scratching your head, so how do you determine brand clarity and how can you leverage it? And that is what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk a little bit about process and going through there. So the process of developing a powerful and distinct brand doesn't need to be complicated. This is how we do it, and it's 4 simple steps: discovery, definition, expression, and implementation. So first, discovery. I'm going to give you a little bit of overview of each of these steps, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper in each and talk about how that brand clarity that you define is such an integral part of this development process. So the first step of being discovery, just really understanding the situation. Why does something need to be rebranded or repositioned or changed? Um, Defining the opportunity. What's going on in the market? What are the competitors doing? Um, do they have intelligence that a competitor is going to introduce something that's going to really hurt them? So how do they prepare for that, or position themselves differently? And what do audiences need? Those are all things you need to figure out before you can move forward. We like to talk a lot. I like to talk a lot about branding, rebranding. A rebranding assignment or a branding assignment is really going from point A to B.